I've always thought of Walmart as a beacon of convenience, a place where you can find just about anything you need, anytime you need it. Living in a small town not too far from Bentonville, Arkansas, the birthplace of Walmart, meant that the store was more than just a retail giant. It was a part of our local heritage and pride. But after what happened to me one late November night, stepping foot in Walmart fills me with an indescribable dread, turning my once mundane shopping trips into journeys of paranoia and fear. This is my story, a true account of the night that forever changed how I view the smiling, welcoming facade of Walmart. It was the week of Thanksgiving, and my mother had tasked me with making a last-minute run to Walmart to pick up some essentials we had forgotten for our holiday feast. I remember grumbling about the inconvenience, wishing I could just relax at home instead of navigating the pre-holiday shopping chaos. But familial duty called, and I found myself pulling into the Walmart parking lot just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the asphalt. The parking lot was surprisingly empty, a stark contrast to the bustling activity I had expected. I attributed the quiet to the late hour. It was around 10 p.m., and I figured most people had already made their holiday purchases. Shrugging off an initial flicker of unease, I grabbed my shopping list and made my way inside. The store was eerily quiet, the usual cacophony of sounds: children crying, cash registers beeping. The intercom announcements were absent, replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to press down on me. I shook off the feeling, chalking it up to the late hour in the holiday season, and began my shopping. As I navigated through the aisles, I couldn't shake the sensation that I was being watched. Every so often I would hear the faintest whisper, so soft and fleeting that I couldn't make out the words or even be sure it wasn't just my imagination. I tried to focus on my list, but the feeling of unease grew with each passing minute. I was in the baking aisle, reaching for a bag of sugar when it happened. A cold hand grasped my shoulder, sending a jolt of fear through me. I whipped around, expecting to come face to face with a prankster or a disgruntled employee, but there was no one there. The aisle was empty, save for the dimly lit shelves stocked with goods. My heart hammered in my chest as I tried to rationalize what had just happened, but the icy touch on my shoulder felt too real to dismiss as my imagination. Panicked, I abandoned my cart and started to make my way towards the front of the store, my footsteps echoing loudly in the silent, seemingly abandoned Walmart. That's when the whispers grew louder, a chorus of hushed voices that seemed to come from all directions. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but the tone was unmistakable. It was menacing, a stark contrast to the silence that had enveloped the store just moments before. I broke into a run, the whispers turning into mocking laughter that followed me down the aisles. I glanced back, half expecting to see a crowd of spectral figures chasing after me, but there was nothing. The store was as empty as it had been since I'd arrived. When I reached the front, I was met with a sight that stopped me dead in my tracks. The doors, which had been wide open and inviting when I entered, were now shut tight. I pushed against them with all my might, but they wouldn't budge. I was trapped. Panic surged through me as I banged on the doors, screaming for help, but my cries seemed to be swallowed by the vast emptiness of the store. It was then that I heard a voice, clear and distinct among the whispers, speaking directly into my ear. "You are not alone." The terror that sentences evoked was indescribable. I turned, expecting to confront whoever was tormenting me, but again there was no one there. Desperate, I searched for another way out, my mind racing with thoughts of being trapped in this nightmare forever. The whispers and laughter continued, a constant presence, as I frantically looked for an escape. It was only when I reached the back of the store, near the employee's entrance, that I found my salvation. The door was ajar, offering a sliver of hope. I didn't think twice before pushing it open and spilling out into the cool night air. I ran without looking back, my lungs burning and my mind reeling from the terror I had just experienced. It wasn't until I reached my car, the safety of the familiar interior, that I allowed myself to break down, tears streaming down my face as I tried to make sense of what had happened. The next day, I reported the incident to the store management, but they were skeptical of my story. They assured me that I was the only customer in the store at that time, and that their employees had seen no one else. They suggested it was a prank or perhaps the stress of the holiday season playing tricks on my mind. But I know what I experienced was real, and it was unlike anything I've ever felt before. Since that night, I've avoided Walmart, doing my shopping online or at other stores, even if it means paying a little more or driving a bit further. The memory of the whispers and the feeling of being watched has never quite left me, and I often find myself looking over my shoulder, half expecting to hear that chilling voice whispering in my ear, "You are not alone." To this day, I can't explain what happened to me in that Walmart near Bentonville. Some suggest it was a haunting, a glimpse into another realm, while others believe it was a psychological breakdown triggered by stress. But whatever the explanation, one thing is clear: there are things in this world that defy rational understanding, experiences that remind us that the world is far more mysterious and terrifying than we can ever comprehend. And sometimes these experiences find us in the most ordinary of places, turning the familiar into something utterly horrifying. Hey all, let me tell you about the scariest night of my life that happened right here in my hometown at the Walmart on the outskirts. Now, I've been to that store a million times, and nothing ever seemed off. But this one night, well, it sent shivers down my spine just thinking about it. It was a regular Friday evening, and I found myself wandering through the aisles of Walmart like any other weekend. The store wasn't too crowded, just a few folks picking up their groceries and essentials. Everything seemed normal, but little did I know that the night was about to take a turn for the worse. As I strolled through the aisles, my cart creaking with each turn, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. It was like the air was thicker, and the usual hum of the fluorescent lights had a strange, ominous undertone. I figured it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, so I shrugged it off and continued shopping. I needed some household items, so I made my way to the back of the store where they keep the cleaning supplies. Aisle 13. Now, this aisle was always a bit dimly lit, but that night it was downright creepy. The flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows on the shelves, and I swear the temperature dropped a few degrees as I entered. As I reached for a bottle of all-purpose cleaner, I heard a soft rustling sound coming from the end of the aisle. I thought it might be an employee restocking shelves, but when I looked, there was no one there. The unease I felt earlier intensified, and I started to pick up my pace, eager to get out of that dimly lit aisle. Just as I turned the corner to head back towards the main aisle, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A shadow. It was like a fleeting silhouette, disappearing into the shelves. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze for a moment, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. I told myself it was probably just a trick of the light, or my imagination running wild. But as I continued down the main aisle, that uneasy feeling persisted. I decided to head to the checkout and get out of there, but the strangest part was yet to come. As I approached the registers, I noticed the store had gotten even quieter. There were no chattering customers, no beeping of the cash registers, just an eerie silence that sent chills down my spine. I looked around, feeling a bit paranoid, and that's when I saw them. Standing at the end of the main aisle were three figures dressed in old-fashioned clothing. It was as if they were frozen in time, staring at me with hollow eyes. Their faces were pale, and their expressions were blank. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and my mind raced to find a logical explanation. I tried to shake off the fear and convinced myself that they were just employees in some sort of costume for a promotion or event. But as I approached them, the air grew colder, and I noticed something off about their appearance. Their clothes were tattered, and there was a strange, otherworldly glow around them. I decided to take a different route to avoid the strange trio, but as I turned into another aisle, I was met with a sight that made my blood run cold. The shelves were now stocked with products that seemed ancient, long discontinued, and covered in dust. It was like I had stepped into a time capsule, and the air smelled musty and old. I quickened my pace, desperately trying to find an exit. The once familiar store had transformed into a maze of unsettling sights and sounds. Every corner I turned revealed more bizarre occurrences: flickering lights, distant whispers, and inexplicable shadows that seemed to dance around me. As I made my way towards the front of the store, the silence was broken by the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty aisles. I glanced around, but there was no one in sight. The footsteps grew louder and more pronounced, as if they were closing in on me. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached the checkout area, only to find the registers empty and unmanned. Panic set in as I realized I was completely alone in this bizarre, twisted version of Walmart. The footsteps continued, now accompanied by the sound of faint laughter that sent shivers down my spine. I sprinted towards the exit my cart abandoned in the aisle. As I pushed open the doors, the cold night air hit me like a slap in the face. I stumbled into the parking lot, breathing heavily, and turned back to look at the store. The lights flickered, and for a moment I saw the three figures standing at the entrance, their eyes locked onto mine. I hightailed it out of there, not daring to look back until I was safely in my car. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something otherworldly had taken over that Walmart. I don't know if it was a glitch in the Matrix, a supernatural occurrence, or just my mind playing tricks on me. But one thing's for sure, I'll never forget the shadows in aisle 13 and the chilling night I spent in that Walmart. It was a Friday night like any other in the small town of Millbrook, nestled in the heart of Middle America. I worked the night shift at the local Walmart, stocking shelves and cleaning up the aftermath of the day's shopping frenzy. Little did I know that this particular night would be etched into my memory as the scariest experience of my life. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I made my way through the aisles, pushing my cart full of merchandise. The store was eerily quiet, except for the occasional creaking of the shopping carts and the distant hum of the refrigerators in the grocery section. The atmosphere was already tense, with the flickering lights casting long shadows that seemed to dance along the shelves. Around 2 a.m., I found myself in the electronics department, facing the daunting task of restocking DVDs. As I meticulously arranged the movies on the shelves, I heard a faint shuffling sound coming from the back of the department. My initial assumption was that it was just another employee going about their duties, but the sense of unease began to creep over me. I glanced around, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise. The dimly lit aisles seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions, making it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The shuffling continued, growing louder and closer. My heart pounded in my chest as I strained my ears, now certain that something was not quite right. A cold gust of air brushed against the back of my neck, causing me to shudder involuntarily. I turned around, expecting to see a fellow employee or perhaps a misplaced box of merchandise. Instead, I was met with an empty aisle, the shadows playing tricks on my mind. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me and continued my work, albeit with a heightened sense of awareness. As I made my way to the back of the store, the feeling of being watched intensified. The soft hum of the refrigerators became an unsettling melody, and the silence between each buzz echoed through the empty store. I quickened my pace, determined to finish my tasks and escape the suffocating atmosphere that seemed to linger in the air. Upon reaching the toy section, I noticed an unattended shopping cart filled with children's toys. It struck me as odd, given that the store had been virtually empty since midnight. I approached the cart cautiously, scanning the surroundings for any sign of the person who had left it behind. The eerie silence persisted, broken only by the distant ticking of a malfunctioning clock. As I examined the cart, a chill ran down my spine. The toys were scattered haphazardly, as if someone had been in a rush. Among the toys, I noticed a tattered and worn teddy bear with missing buttons for eyes. Its disheveled appearance seemed out of place in the sterile environment of the toy aisle. I picked it up, the fabric feeling cold and damp to the touch. Just as I was about to return the teddy bear to the cart, a muffled giggle echoed through the empty store. I froze, my heart racing as I strained to identify the source of the sound. The giggle seemed to reverberate from the nearby shelves, blending with the ambient noise of the store. It was a childlike giggle, innocent yet unsettling in the dead of night. Fear gripped me, and I took a hesitant step back, the teddy bear slipping from my grasp and hitting the floor with a soft thud. The giggling continued, now accompanied by the sound of tiny footsteps approaching. I scanned the aisles, my eyes widening with terror as I saw a shadowy figure emerge from the darkness. A small girl, no older than 5, stood at the end of the aisle, her back turned towards me. She wore a faded, stained nightgown that seemed decades old. Her bare feet made no sound as she skipped toward the unattended shopping cart, her giggles growing louder with each step. "Hey there, sweetheart," I called out, my voice shaky. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" The girl didn't respond, continuing to play with the toys in the cart. I cautiously approached, my eyes darting around for any sign of the child's guardian. The eerie silence enveloped us as I reached out to gently touch her shoulder. That's when she turned around, her face hidden beneath a curtain of tangled, jet-black hair. My breath caught in my throat as I stared into the void where her eyes should have been. Hollow sockets stared back at me, devoid of life, and a malevolent grin stretched across her pallid face. The temperature in the aisle plummeted, and the hum of the refrigerators grew louder, drowning out the sound of my own heartbeat. I stumbled backward, my mind struggling to comprehend the nightmarish sight before me. The girl's laughter echoed through the aisle, distorting into an unnerving chorus. Panic surged through my veins as I turned and sprinted down the aisle, desperate to escape the surreal encounter. As I rounded the corner, I collided with a shopping cart, sending it crashing to the floor. The contents spilled out, creating a cacophony of clattering cans and shuffling plastic. I frantically picked myself up, my eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of the ghostly child. The store seemed to stretch on endlessly, the aisles twisting and distorting in my disoriented state. I stumbled upon the checkout area, hoping to find another soul in the vast emptiness of the store. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the conveyor belts, and the beeping of the cash registers echoed through the desolate space. My footsteps reverberated as I made my way toward the exit, the haunting laughter of the girl still lingering in the air. Just as I reached the automatic sliding doors, they creaked open, revealing the pitch-black night outside. A sense of relief washed over me as I stepped into the cool night air, leaving the nightmare of the Walmart behind. The parking lot was eerily quiet, the only sound being the distant hum of the streetlights. I walked briskly toward my car, glancing back at the store one last time. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously through the glass windows, casting a dim glow on the empty aisles. The night had taken a toll on me, and the image of the eyeless girl haunted my thoughts. As I fumbled with my keys, a sudden movement caught my eye. Through the window, I saw the same teddy bear I had found in the toy aisle. It sat on the conveyor belt of an unattended checkout lane, its missing button eyes staring directly at me. The laughter echoed in my mind, and I sped away from the Walmart, leaving the horrors of that night behind. To this day, the memory of the eyeless girl and the ghostly laughter lingers in my nightmares. I can't shake the feeling that something otherworldly had taken residence in that Walmart, waiting for unsuspecting souls to cross its path during the dead of night. And every time I drive past the store, the image of the teddy bear on the checkout lane conveyor belt serves as a chilling reminder that some horrors are best left in the shadows. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Don't forget to like and comment below. See you in the future video.